Welcome to the Creative Resistance Podcast, home to deep dive conversations with the artists, activists and thinkers who refuse to look away. Each episode sees me, Scott Cassidy, explore how guests are using their creativity to challenge injustice, build community and spark direct action to empower and affect change. Episode 2 is here, and I'm joined by two incredible humans who are using their time, expertise and passion to make a difference to those in the most dire situations. Karim Ali and Ruaidhri, known to many as MacKay. We discuss hope, resilience, civic action and solidarity. We explore the importance of storytelling, mobility justice, escalation of action and building a better tomorrow. And we learn about the Gaza Sunbirds and the Thousand Madleens to Gaza. Now, Karim Ali is the co-founder and international coordinator of the Gaza Sunbirds, a paracycling team established in 2020 in the Gaza Strip. He co-founded the team with cyclist Alaa al-Dali to provide competitive sporting opportunities for disabled athletes in Gaza, many of whom are amputees due to injuries sustained from Israeli forces. In addition to managing the team, he acts as a spokesperson, responsible for sharing the Gaza Sunbirds story internationally, and, as we discuss, the Sunbirds have developed into so much more than a parasports team, now operating an expanded mission, including rehabilitation and international aid. The team are thriving in the face of huge adversity, and Karim paints a vital picture. Now, Ruaidhri is an activist, an organiser involved in the international coordination of Thousand Madleens to Gaza, a civil resistance grassroots movement using non-violent, direct action to confront injustice in Palestine and amplify unheard voices. He also works with Greenpeace's Climb Team and Extinction Rebellion on action planning and design, focusing on creative, strategic and safe approaches to protest. Campaigning for social and environmental justice, his activism explores how peaceful resistance, storytelling and solidarity can be tools for liberation and repair in times of global crisis. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Karim Ali, MacKay, a very warm welcome to the Creative Resistance Podcast. Thank you so much for your time today. How are you both doing?
Doing great. It's good to be here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Listen, the listeners will have already heard a little bit about each of you at the podcast and what it is you do. But just to give some context, can I ask how your paths actually crossed? Like, how did you guys get to know each other?
So we met through activism, I guess, and the love of cycling, I suppose, would be the combination. And there's a great group and event called the Big Ride for Palestine, which the Gaza Sunbirds are also involved in. And it's such a positive event, brings together people from all walks of life to ride in solidarity with the Palestinians and raise awareness on what's happening over in Palestine. And with rides across the country, now globally, I think, Karim, is that right?
Yeah.
So Karim was speaking at one of the events. We met really while cycling around London, and each time we came together in London, we seemed to be attacked by fascists. So that was good fun. So the fascists probably brought us together and brought us closer together in some ways.
There's a kind of poetry in that, isn't there? I love that.
There's nothing like a gammon attacking you for cycling around London with a smile on your face, is there? I genuinely think that's the only two times that's happened as well to the big rides.
So it's your fault, basically.
Possibly, yeah.
Then stop inviting Ru to participate in the ride.
All right. And it's like, well, yeah. Listen, kids. Not all activism is scary, though. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have started with that story.
We've gotten to discuss some of the beautiful sides as well, which is ace. Thank you for that. And just to give some context, so this is the first time I've met Karim, but for anyone listening, Ru or Ruaidhri, as I more oftenly call him, so I'll probably flip between those two today, is one of my oldest and closest pals. So if I inadvertently revert to historic stuff, that is why. Karim, can I come to you for a sec? So the Gaza Sunbirds story, it's an incredible example of sport being used as a conduit for greater good, of politics by way of just being present, often in spaces that are new. But the story's become so much bigger than sport. And I'd just love an update on what the current situation is for Sunbirds, both inside and outside of Palestine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, thank you for that. The team's story has definitely grown, and the impacts are being felt far and wide, which I feel very honored for, and very honored for the impact that we've been able to make. In Gaza right now, the situation is tough. Even with the ceasefire right now, there's still a lot of unassurance about what the long-term situation is going to be. The entire city is decimated, or the entire Gaza Strip is decimated. There's no more hospitals or schools or uh, supermarkets, anything really left. And so the team is now starting to think about rebuilding, which, as you can imagine, is heavy because part of that is recognizing all that has been lost and trying to come to terms with what is needed. But at the same time, there is a lot of optimism and a lot of hope involved when we start dreaming about, we want to start a rehabilitation center in Gaza and start working with people with disabilities over there, and use sports and community service to create a program. We start to feel very, very hopeful. Unfortunately, it's not about how hopeful we are. It's always going to be about what the occupation wants to do, and what their agenda is for the war. And so we're waiting. And on the international front, also similarly, we're optimistic. The ceasefire is, it's very welcome news. Our athletes have had their families stuck in Gaza for the last 2 years, some of them who've been evacuated previously. And so they're very grateful that the genocide has stopped. They're very grateful that their families are less under threat now. And we're starting to build up rehabilitation programs now as well in Belgium and in Egypt. We have more athletes joining. There is no shortage of Gazans with disabilities, unfortunately. And we're gearing up for 2026 for a big year of competing as well. We have 7 races coming up, all of which we can earn qualification points for the Paralympics. And our objective right now is very much to make it to Alaa in 2028. Trump will still be in power. It's going to be very fun to try to get visas, and I think we're going to have a great campaign to make it there. And so, yeah, we're feeling optimistic. There's a lot to look forward to. Big challenges, bigger dreams, bigger challenges, but I think we're up for the task.
Yeah, I love that. How separate are the two sides of the organisation? Is it a charity? I'm not sure what the right term is, but do you keep the kind of hands-on aid separate to the sports side of it, or is it all wrapped under the same umbrella?
That's a good question. So what a lot of people don't realize is that we were never built to do aid. We're a community interest company, and our dream was always just to be a sports team. Aid kind of just came from the fact that there were people around us that were starving, and that the whole world was failing to take action. And so the team thought to take action in the position that they were in. That means that we're still set up as a CIC. We work with fiscal hosts and charities to do the NGO side of the work that we do. And long term, we're going to be establishing an NGO in Palestine to continue working on our just on our aid missions, on the rehabilitation projects in Gaza, on all of the work that we want to do. Till today, we were never like a professional team. It's the professional jump happened very recently, which is really exciting, and it means that now in the future we have to start thinking of having a professional team body and then like a foundation body to do our community work. We don't like thinking about it as a charity. We've never wanted to be branded as a charity. We always talk about ourselves as a paracycling team because that's what we do. We just happen to do community work, and we believe in community solidarity and in organizing with the people around us. And so, yeah, I think that's the best way to think about it. We're a paracycling team that does a lot more.
Yeah. Beautiful. And it's such an amazing example of sport being used for that greater good as well. Thank you for that, Karim. Ru, I know you're heavily involved with Thousand Madleens to Gaza. Could you give us just a quick overview of what that is, what they do, and then I'll expand on that a little bit.
I guess Thousand Madleens to Gaza kind of came about from what Karim said before, as the world was failing to take action. And so over the last, I guess, 6 months, 9 months or so on, there's been a civic movement, people around the world who have seen that the world is failing to take action and seen that there's a void, and try to fill that void in some way and amplify the issues that the Palestinian people are facing. Yeah, I guess, I mean, the Thousand Madleens to Gaza it's a flotilla. It's a civic movement, a group of people from right around the world who've come together to take boats to break the siege in Gaza. It's a truly humbling and wonderful group of people who've come together to do that. People from all walks of life, politicians through to ex-military and everything in between. And a great group of activists who collectively come together to do something, to step up or show up, shall we say.
Yeah, beautiful. I think both Thousand Madleens Gaza and Gaza Sunbirds are amazing examples of that kind of creative and collective action, which I think is so important. And it's interesting that they both tap into existing cultures of people. So whether that's groups of activists, whether that's the cycling community, which you guys met through, sailing community. Now, Ru, I've known you for a long time, and I've known you as an activist with lots of different hats on and engaged in lots of different causes. What was it that drew you to the Thousand Madleens cause? I'm intrigued because it's a demonstration, but it's also a very direct form of action. It's a protest that is designed to physically break a siege. So what was it that drew you into what is quite a scary course of action?
Yeah, it was a scary course of action, but you just said I'm wearing loads of different hats. I just want to draw attention that I'm actually wearing a Grampian haggis hat today. So I'm not sure I'm representing my veganism particularly well, or my activism there. But I guess the sudden realization that whatever I was doing was not working, and a sense of guilt, helplessness, whatever you want to call it. And I had this moment that, where I was kind of falling into the category of failing to take action or action that I felt was actually doing something. But it turns out that a lot of people around the world had also had that thought at the same time. And there was an amazing global civic movement which sprung up, which was a march to Gaza, the global march to Gaza. And so started working on that and attended that, and then that kind of turned into the global movement to Gaza, which joined up into the Samud flotilla, and then that led me on to the Thousand Madleens to Gaza, which, as I said, is a truly incredible movement. Wonderful humans who genuinely have restored my faith in humanity. And our governments were not doing anything in the face of a genocide unfolding, and in fact they're complicit. And so it fell to normal everyday people to do something to fill that gap, that kind of massive void that was left by the so-called people in power who could actually do something. Aid wasn't getting into Gaza, bombs are dropping daily. Palestine's lived under a blockade for 20 plus years, under apartheid for longer than that, under occupation for longer than that. And so the Thousand Madleens, it was an incredible space for, I guess, anyone who wanted to do something to shine a light on what was happening. The Palestinians don't need a voice. They've got their voice. But what we can do is amplify that, or through symbolic, creative acts of civil resistance or non-violent direct action. And it's really important to say this is a non-violent direct action movement, a totally peaceful movement. And one which, incidentally, as a flotilla breaking the siege, which you said, it sounds dramatic, but no laws are being broken by any flotilla that's been trying to break that siege on Palestine for the last 20 years. And no international laws, no laws in sailing, leaving, whether it's Italy or Europe or wherever, and sailing to Palestine. There are absolutely no laws broken during that whole process. So it's a great movement, and people have put their lives on the line. They've put their lives on hold for it. It can be a bit scary at times in terms of what we're trying to do, but ultimately it's a beautiful group of people coming together to actually do something. We're also here in this kind of creative space as well. It's a really creative space, activism, and everything from storytelling through to through social media, whatever, to the incredible artwork that we put on the boats. The planning itself is creative, and it's really one of the most creative places I've thrived in and enjoyed being in. A good example of that is the Sunbird boat, of course.
So my next question was how the Sunbird boat came about and how that actually, how you guys ended up having a boat, Karim.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it came at a good time for everybody, similar to how Ru was feeling like the world wasn't taking enough action. I think everyone in the team also was feeling very frustrated. We'd been distributing aid in Gaza for 700 days, but it was also like 700 plus days where our volunteers were out running stalls, doing fundraisers, watching people continue to suffer, continue to struggle to just survive. And it came at a time, I think, where, the whole world was just choking at that point. And so Thousand Madleens got in touch. They wanted to do a boat in solidarity with the team, and we felt very honored about it. And we thought that there was a lot of ways that we can support each other as well. Sunbirds has a very strong comms team and is good at telling stories. And we were very excited to tell the story of the crew, who are very friendly, amazing, brave people that put their lives on hold, as Ru said, to go out and to take a stand for Palestine, basically. So it felt like it made sense. And within a few weeks, we were out in Augusta together, getting ready to sail out. So it was very quick, very sudden, very needed, I think. In retrospect, we're very happy that we made the collaboration happen.
Yeah, and how are the crew that were on the actual boat? Because am I right in saying they were actually taken into custody? Is that right? Kidnapped is maybe the more.
Yeah, so that's the term it used. Yeah, so they were kidnapped in international waters and then taken to so-called State of Israel and then put into horrendous conditions in what I guess you would call detention, but as part of the kidnapping process. Some were put into genuinely horrendous situations and abused, and I'm sure got some scars that they brought home. Each and every one of them, though, I think has said that what they faced was absolutely nothing in comparison to what the Palestinian hostages would have faced. We've got thousands of Palestinians in detention without any trial, both children through to all age groups, for practically nothing, I would imagine, in most cases. And if they're willing to treat white European passport holders, American passport holders, politicians, journalists, NGO, medics, doctors, nurses with abuse, both physical and verbal and psychological torture, then just imagine what they'd be willing to do to people in Palestine.
Totally, and it was that they were willing to do that level of use to people that they knew would talk about it, that they knew that it would come out. But what I think is incredible from the outside looking in was that every single person that was kidnapped and put in that position, when asked about it, instantly deviated attention back onto what's happening in Palestine. It wasn't about them. It wasn't about that attention-seeking type thing, which I think is incredible. Ru, you touched on the creativity behind it all, and I think that shines through, from both of the organisations we're speaking about here and a lot of those sort of collaborations. And I think both Gaza Sunbirds, Thousand Madleens have their roots in that collaboration and coordinated international action. And I'm intrigued just to dig a bit deeper into how you navigate the mobilisation of the masses of people who do care and who do give a shit in the face of sort of institutional censorship. Karim, you had a clip that rightly went viral but was horrendous, where you were shut down very obviously on the BBC for using the term genocide. And I think, am I right in saying that you have to think creatively to almost bypass those barriers that have been put up by the institutions such as the BBC, who are unwilling to speak about that? Oh.
Yeah, I was just saying that you definitely need to be creative about things. But I think it's more about going up and making your point and knowing the boundaries of what is respectful and what is factual, and trying to stay as accurate as possible and not to misrepresent facts. That's the basis of it. Like, that's what I try to do every time I go up there, and I try to, no matter what questions they ask me or what corner they try to push me into, I always answer the questions in the way that I want to answer them. And I don't know, the more I've done press, the more I've realized that's all that it is. It's like a journalist question is a suggestion for, you don't actually have to go with the response. But yeah, I mean, I think when you're in creative spaces, you do get access to more places than when you're coming at things from the activist sphere of work, for sure. And that's why there is a responsibility for people in the creative space, for people in the athletic space, to use their voice as well to try to make a difference. Sunbirds symbolically offered a lot of support. At the same time, we're still a sports team. We're not like we still have races coming up in 1 month's time and in 6 months' time. We're still doing aid in Gaza. So yeah,
do you find there are barriers to Sunbirds competing in some areas? Is that a hurdle that you have to cross?
Yeah, of course. So like mobility justice is one of the biggest things that we advocate for in Sunbirds. It's the idea of like people, regardless of their background, regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity, all of this kind of stuff, ability, like mobility levels, being able to move through life and experience it to the fullest standard, that everyone else can. And for us with Alaa, he spent 7 years trying to leave Gaza as a professional cyclist and was never allowed to leave for competitions. He got rejected from 5 competitions internationally. And then when he finally got the chance to leave, he was shot in the leg. And then after that, he was rejected for visas another 4 or 5 years in a row to be able to go out and to compete. So it wasn't until the genocide actually started that like we were able to evacuate him, and then we were able to get to Europe. Every time we travel, it's a big challenge and takes big risks. And I mean, the biggest risk was seen, for example, when he left to compete last year. He left Gaza with the hope that the genocide would end and he'd be able to return home. And the Israelis hadn't gone into Rafah yet. And within 3 weeks of him leaving, he couldn't go home anymore, nor could the rest of our team, because Rafah was invaded. And so, yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff affects a lot, of course. And then next year, we're looking at the World Championship for cycling being in the United States as well, which we all know the situation there at the moment. We all know the immigration situation there at the moment with visas. It's going to be challenging,
Yeah.
So it's always coming up. Yeah, but that's
sure.
a challenge by going to compete and by persevering to make sure that we have every right to go and compete in America. If the US wants to host the World Championship for cycling, they better let us in. Like I'm saying this from now, Otherwise, they have no business to be hosting a World Championship. But you don't know. Politics always plays out differently than what is right and wrong.
Yeah, I think that political message, like I said at the start, by way of just being present, I think is so powerful. And it opens doors and shines a light for people who maybe wouldn't pay attention. But when it's done through sport, when it's done through sailing, whatever it is, I think that is such a powerful message, and I think it's incredible that you guys are fighting that battle whilst everything else is also going on. Just for the listeners as well, the chap that you spoke about there, who was shot in the leg, am I right in saying he's your co-founder of Gaza Sunbirds? Yeah, sounds like an incredible man.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's
For
awesome.
sure.
I was very lucky enough to meet Alaa when he came to lift the spirits of everyone at the Thousand Madleens as we were preparing the boats, and genuinely having Karim and Alaa come and speak to everybody really did kind of put a big amount of love into everyone's hearts as we were preparing to set sail. If I could comment as well on listening Karim talk about Alaa, just the depth and calmness, I guess, he carries when he speaks. Karim, as he's speaking there, it really does hit home at this whole kind of movement is about. It's like, we've got to ground in people. And for me, one of the biggest things we need to do now is wrestle back control of that narrative that we're seeing in the mainstream media, which has let us down. It's let the people of Palestine down. It's let the people in the UK down and the Western world down. It goes beyond Palestine. People of Congo, so many others deserve better. And the realities aren't being told truthfully or fully. And that's where we as individuals, or like as Karim as an individual or Alaa as an individual, come in. Each of the Sunbirds has got their incredible story, an incredibly painful story to share. So, listening to that and actually really listening to that and getting that message to wider audiences like politicians, to the public, to people in the media, and taking that forward is such an important part of what we need to do and kind of wrestle back, fight back, and take that control back. On the Thousand Madleens, it was pretty cool. We had like a really diverse group on every boat. So we had like medics, politicians, journalists, public figures, everything from a rapper, Youssef, through to medic Lee, all working together. And so that offered protection for the crew, but also was about carrying and sharing different stories, different missions. Sunbirds played a big part of that, telling the truth, humanizing what's happening, keeping the stories alive where others have genuinely tried to silence them, and that seems like the kind of duty that we have, really.
Yeah, there's a common theme there, Rue, about storytelling, and I think it's easy to see that as a small thing, or creativity is not important. But I think Again, from the outside looking in, I think the importance of stories and humanising and getting across what it means to individuals, and then zooming out a little bit to show what it means to the wider public is so important. And I think Karim, Gaza Sunbirds do that incredibly well. And it was amazing to watch that kind of collaboration and coordinated approach as the flotilla was due to be leaving. It was really beautiful. Like, despite the obvious pain and the kind of the root cause of it all, it was a really beautiful thing to watch. Kind of people come together and set sail. So yeah, hats off to all of you, definitely.
Sunbirds have created some awesome footage and videos, like incredible films on the social media in partnership with the TMTG and the FFC. They're genuinely brilliant. So anyone wants to find out a little bit more about what's going on, just go and look at the Sunbirds.
Yeah, I'll link everything in show notes as well. But yeah, just to echo that, I think that it is incredible. One of the things that I've heard recently, again on social media and really through conversations we've had, is that I've heard you both call for an escalation of action and both voice frustration that people's normal go-to methods, petitions, placards, sharing social media posts, are no longer working. So beyond donating, beyond sharing on social media, what do you reckon is the single most powerful action or next step that you'd encourage listeners to take to escalate their involvement?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the whole situation is cooked, to be honest with you, because we've been protesting, we've been raising placards, we've been doing petitions, but the governments aren't listening. And the only rational reason is that they're paid off. And they're paid millions of dollars by AIPAC and by other lobby groups around the world to advocate for Israel, to stand with Zionism, to support the genocide. And so, as populations, we need to come to terms with this reality. And what does coming to terms with it means? Like, as someone who might be a British citizen soon myself, I'm pissed off that my government is being paid off by another country, that my voice isn't being listened to. If this is the standard that I set for Palestine today, what is the standard going to be tomorrow when it comes to who's going to take over water or healthcare system in this country, or how we're going to deal with other nations and other conflicts as well? And so that's horrifying. And it's wild that it's not considered corruption or bribery when there's human life that's suffering at the other side of it. And what nations or people decide to do when they come to terms with that information, I don't know. I think it's much bigger than Palestine. Of course, I think there should be more people joining the flotilla. There should be more people demonstrating, and there should be more people causing disruption to put pressure on people that haven't been listening. I think there should be more people supporting the people that are doing good work as well, people that are raising their voice, all of the brands that are standing with Palestine, to create also an economic interest in standing on the right side of history as well. It's important. These things don't happen, it doesn't always have to be a loss. Actually, standing on the right side of history can be a win as well, But yeah, I think all nations need to come to terms with the reality that their officials are paid off by a foreign entity. And I don't know what that means for us living in what we think are democracies, But
yeah, I think that's a really important point, that just to acknowledge that there is that disparity between what the government are saying and what the press are supporting and what the majority of people actually think. And it's really easy to be despondent and to think that it's not making a difference. But I think it's really important just to have that awareness and to realise that that's not a reason to give up. That's not a reason to stop what we're doing. What are your thoughts on that, Roo? What could people do to escalate, to do more, to make a bigger difference?
I mean, I would echo everything Karim said and just add that I feel like the single most important thing anyone can do is to step outside of your own personal status quo. And that might mean, instead of going to football on Saturday, go to a protest or write to your MP. Instead of doing that one thing, which then becomes that second thing, that third thing, you start to get into the flow of actually stepping outside of your normal status quo day to day. Don't watch that TV show, do something. Stop being a bystander. And that means, I guess, moving beyond passive sympathy into active solidarity, where you start to show up. And that showing up can take a whole host of different, I guess, means or methods, like Karim, the Sunbirds, and Big Ride for Palestine, the flotillas. But it can also mean writing a poem, banging a drum outside of a building for a day. It can be all sorts of different cool things. And it's just really speaking out, even when it's uncomfortable. Boycott, divest, and sanction, that's something that is really easy to step into. But, a lot of people are terrified by it because it's like you're told it's a really bad thing to boycott something. But all that means is not buying a date from Israel, from an apartheid or an occupied state, but buy it from a Palestinian producer. It's pretty simple. And that then takes you further into, your own ways of showing your active solidarity for whatever movement you want. For some, that might mean that supporting then non-violent direct actions. For others, it might be like using your platform, your art, your classrooms, your workplaces, wherever space you hold to challenge that silence. And, I do believe that everyone has a role in that, whether it's, challenging that silence in the pub over having a pint, or whether it's challenging that silence in political spaces. You mentioned petitions, placards. Of course, they've got a space, but they aren't enough anymore. And we've seen that they're not enough, and they've become part of the noise, maybe in some ways. And so what we've really got to do is kind of turn up, be present, be persistent, and also connect. And projects like Thousand Madleens to Gaza Sunbirds, and that partnership really did connect people beautifully. I left Italy with honestly the biggest heart I think I've ever had. It was bursting with so much love and passion and shared, connection with people. And in doing that, in showing up to those moments, you can amplify that truth. You asked about success. Like, what does success look like? Oh God, I don't know. It's maybe not a single event, maybe not one kind of political victory, but more like seeing that shift in power to people like us, realizing that they have got power, that they are a movement, that when we act together, we can bring down some systems like Israel.
Yeah, it can actually affect change. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful way to bring things to a close. Thank you for that. What's next for you guys, Karim? What's next for Gaza Sunbirds and for you individually?
A good question. Like I said earlier, we're trying to start a rehabilitation center in Gaza if the ceasefire continues playing out. If not, we're starting rehabilitation programs in Egypt and in Belgium anyways. So we're trying to grow the team now. And we have 6 or 7 races next year that we're targeting, which is going to cost us a lot of money. So we're looking for sponsors right now. We're looking for brand deals for the guys. We're looking for as many ways as possible to make the cycling and racing side of things self-sufficient. And at the same time, we're trying to continue raising more funds so that we can make more impact on the ground and get cycling to more people as a tool for rehabilitation. So a lot of the next few months is just restructuring and trying to get the organization in a position to scale and support as well for other people.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. And Rue, what about you, mate? What's next?
I've got to go back to work in just a minute. No, like the Thousand Madleens, we are assessing the first wave and debriefing and now starting to think about the next wave. It's not a movement that ever was designed around kind of stopping because the first wave of boats have been kidnapped. And yeah, we'll hopefully be working on Gaza Sunbirds boat part 2. We've got some great ideas and concepts being bounced around for that, which is really beautiful. So looking forward to working on that, seeing where that story takes us. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at, really.
Yeah, amazing. Well, listen, can I just say, like, a huge and from the heart, massive thank you to both of you for the time today and for the work that you're doing. It is so needed. It's fascinating to find out more, and I will put links to all the organisations we've discussed in the show notes. So huge thank you, guys, and take care. All the best.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
See you soon.
See you soon.